All right, welcome back, everybody. Captain George, Captain Serge over here with another Monday night Florida West Coast Fishing Report. And what can I tell you? We're ready to go, but the
Right.
weather's saying, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, they're changing that weather on us again. Tomorrow's going to be cold tomorrow morning. Well, not cold,
Actually,
but
tomorrow night's going to get down to 41.
I know it's unfortunate because sometimes they can really shuffle the deck.
Everything was doing so good, and then this happens.
Yep. And the bait, there was some white bait starting to show up a little bit, not much, but a little bit on the flats, at least in my area. And this will probably push them back off the flats again.
Oh, man, I'll tell you. And then, I was talking to the bait guys today, both of them, and, they're saying in the bay, it's kind of like it's some
You got to work.
big bait, but that's about it. You got to go to the Skyway.
Yeah, you got to work right now. That's for sure. They're moving around a lot. They're not in the same place a lot of times. I had one area where I had them in that same place for a little while, and then like a light switch, they weren't there. Then I found them again in a different spot, and the very next day they weren't there.
So, and this cold weather ain't going to help any for a couple of days.
Nothing at all.
Now, tomorrow's windy. Then cold Wednesday morning. Sort of the high tomorrow is only 67.
Yes.
And the same thing on Wednesday. And then Friday is going to be horrendous. I mean, they're talking about rain and 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. Because, last week, they were saying the same thing about Wednesday, to where I thought, I'm going to have to cancel Wednesday. And then Wednesday ended up being the best day of the week.
Well, but that's what I mean. The weatherman's the only guy that can get paid whether he's right or wrong.
Yeah. Could you imagine if 50% of the time we didn't catch fish, we'd be out of business.
That's right. But the weatherman gets paid.
Yep.
But he never lies. It says 50% chance. It might not rain at the house, but it rains somebody else's house.
Well, it didn't happen. Well, I was still right.
So what the heck? And let's see. I'm showing that we got Donald on. You have somebody else on your site there, on your phone, on your computer?
Let me see. I gotta shut this one page off. There we go. Let me see what I got. I got Alejandro says good evening.
Yeah, I don't have Alejandro yet. I don't know why.
I'm gonna hit refresh. We'll see what happens with that. That usually gets me going.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it again because I'm not getting.
Yeah, I've only got Alejandro for comments.
I got Ken Burke now. He's on.
I don't know why it does that.
I don't know. Yeah,
And then here's Carlos. Carlos says good evening.
And I got Ken, and you got Carlos.
I got Alejandro and Carlos Rosa, and he says good evening, gents. Those naked ball jigs were great today. The pink half ounce was on fire. Thanks for the gift. Yeah, I used to use those quite a bit. They were good. Put a piece of shrimp on. Go get some hogfish with those.
That's how they all got started. They were fishing. Actually, when they first came into the area, I took the inventor out, and a guy that used to be an old client of mine in the hardware business, he introduced me to him. And he wanted to get some video of it catching some fish. So we went out to the danger sign, and we hit it just right. We sat there, must have pulled 50 trout with those jigs. I mean, they just happened to be there. The good Lord said, hey, I'm going to give you a break,
Yeah. And I tell you, I used to like, because I was sponsored by them for a lot of years, and I used to like the small quarter-ounce one. There was one that worked good on redfish. It was copper color with the brownish copper mixed in flash of foil on the hook end of it.
And you wonder what attraction does it have to a fish? Now, it had a little feather on it.
Well, I think that's what I'm talking about. The feather end had like a brownish copper with a little bit of flash in it.
Maybe
but you got that little chain. You got that little chain, that holds everything together off that ball. And that chain just has a lot of action because that feather's just flopping around. You have that little
treble hook in the back.
Yeah. Whoa. Yep. Those are pretty good.
You don't see them much anymore. They used to be all over the place, and then they kind of disappeared.
I'm sure you do. I know I got a bunch still in my tackle box.
I got some.
Yeah. Donald Clemens said hello, and Carlos said 20 plus trout and a 21-inch one. That's good trout right there.
See, I'm not showing any of those. I got
Now,
Donald,
usually it's the
Ken,
other way
and-
around.
Huh?
Usually it's the other way around, but like, see, I don't see Ken and I don't see Donald tonight.
Yeah, and I got Donald and I got Ken.
Makes no sense.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, hello everybody from both of us, even if we can't see you.
That's right. What can we tell you? We're here,
Yeah.
and
I'm
last week redfish was not bad. Snook is starting to get pretty strong again. Of course, now I don't know what's going to happen. If it stays cold 3 or 4 days, might slow them down again. But they were pretty active last week.
right.
And
Now,
Big Jacks moved in. We were in one spot, and I mean, the one that the picture I got, we had the Eagle digital scaler
yeah,
because that
right.
sucker was big. I mean, big, 14 pounds.
Yeah. You know what's really weird is we were fishing some docks with some deep water, which a lot of times that's a recipe for, the jacks and the ladyfish, and then we were fishing the dock for snook, which we got some. But we got one huge jack, and that was it. It was like a loner jack. I don't know. Usually, once you get hit one, you hit a bunch of
We
them.
had a school that must have been a couple of hundred, and they were chasing mullet, and they came towards us.
Oh,
And we got one, and then the school took off, and it took Ron forever to land them. But I mean, I said, man, we got to picture this guy, and we got to weigh him, and it weighed 14 pounds on the digital scale. He's holding them up with the digital scale, and I said, God,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
a big jack.
Now, I have Donald Clemens saying hi, captains. That's the guy that met me at the boat show 2 years in a row. Does he show up on yours?
No, I don't know what's going on.
No, huh? But you got Donald Waberman?
Yeah, I got him. You got him?
See, no, I don't.
Say,
But hello, Donalds.
Hello. Like I said, I
We
don't,
hit
I don't
refresh one more
understand,
time. I don't understand either. But it could be who's friends with who. But how many times
No.
Donald Waberman always shows up on my feed?
I don't think so. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's strange. But yeah, the bait's been moving around quite a bit. I'm still getting mine. Depending, I've had to move around quite a bit, and like I fished this whole week. I ran 6 days, and I think I caught bait 2 days in a row at the same spot, and then all the other days they weren't there, and I had to move and go someplace else. And most of my bait.
Oh, wait, are you there? Hello, Hota, is he still on? Okay, I lost him. Yeah, and okay, well, hey, that's one of those things. No, he was talking about big baits. It just isn't consistent right now. You go to some areas and there's a nice sized baits for a couple of days, then they're gone, and you have to go and start looking again. But I talked to both of the bait guys that sell baits in Tampa Bay, and they're saying, hey, one day you go and you find some and they're pretty good. The next day they're too big, and the only sure way that they're catching decent bait is at the Skyway. And I tell you, if you don't buy your bait, I hate to say this, but on the average person, if you launch at Gandy and you're going to go to the Skyway to try to catch bait and spend 2 hours and $30 worth of bait, just go to the bait barge, either one of them, give them $25. They'll give you a scoop that will last you all day long. Now, if you're a captain and you're going to be there 6 in the morning and you're going to pick and hunt until you get enough bait, that's fine. But in my case, I figure just part of doing business. If I can get the right bait for a decent price, I'm going to go do it. Yeah, I can hear you now. I lost you. I don't know. No. Yeah, you lost it. Hey, now I got everybody. I got Scott Paul, Manuel.
I got Linda Burke.
I got everybody now. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, tonight's being weird. I still don't have. I got Manuel Fuentes.
Yeah, you got Linda Burke.
I got Linda Burke, Scott, Jessica, Donald, Carlos, and Alejandro, but I still don't have Donald Waberman.
Well, now see, I lost Donald.
Oh, that's weird.
I lost Donald. Now I got the same people you do. So I don't know what's going on.
Yep, that is weird.
It's crazy. But, I was talking about that even the range markers, you can't depend on it because you go one day and you might get some decent bait, maybe a few thread fins, which is not bad. Then you go the next day and there's nothing but 5-6 inch baits that are too big. They're good for cut bait, but they're not any good for,
Yeah.
If you look at a redfish mouth, I mean, the redfish can't eat a 6-inch bait, an average redfish. He can munch at it.
Yeah, if you get into the good ones, they can eat it. But if you get a 16-inch redfish, you're gonna have a hard time with that.
I know.
But yeah, so it's been moving around. I've had to work all week, and it's a hassle, But and then some days, like the one day, I had Spanish sardines mixed in with the white bait, and those are great bait. And we did really well on those. Those things are fast, boy. Talk about a fast bait.
And I tell you what, I love Spanish sardines.
Oh yeah, they're good.
If they're alive, but just cut up for bait.
Oh yeah,
they're oily.
They're oily. Yeah,
they're like a thread fin. And I tell you what, because the way they are, a nice thread fin, you can get 3 nice chunks out of it.
Oh yeah,
a 2-aught circle hook or a kale hook on it for bottom. For big reds, I love Spanish sardines for redfish.
Well, we were using them live, and the snook were loving them. They just are a real fast, hardy bait, and they stayed alive all day in my live well, no problem. And I'll tell you, super fast, and I'll tell you that they're so castable. They cast really good because they're round, they're more aerodynamic. They don't have a flat side to them, so. They never once in a while when you cast a white bait, that thing catches the wind wrong and it acts like a wing and it goes up on you and you're trying to go under the mangrove. The Spanish sardines, they're so nice and round and torpedo like. Wherever you cast them, they go and they skip good.
So the other thing too is there's been a lot of the small thread fins. If you can keep them alive,
they're great.
They're fantastic. The trouble is they don't live very long.
If you don't overstuff your well, you can keep them alive.
Yeah, you can. I would say you can keep 30, 40 alive. You start putting a little more than that. What happens is they start losing too many scales and they actually start choking on their own scales.
Right. We got a new watcher tonight, Scott Paul. He's going out with me Thursday. He heard about the show, so he just tuned in. Appreciate it, Scott. He's from I believe the Wisconsin area, Green Bay. They fish.
Green Bay.
He used to guide on the Bay of Green Bay.
Really? He's a cheesehead. That's what they are.
I've got a few friends that are cheeseheads down here. That
I've seen some of the football games and they got this cut piece of cheese on their head.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But the bait. It's doable. You can find it. You can definitely get on it. But some days you might have to work, use your side finder and just look for it, basically.
I'm thinking, you've only got a couple of weeks left for April 1st.
It should have been here.
But remember, the last couple of years, bait has been real slow coming into the bait.
Yes.
I mean, last year, what was it? June? And we still didn't have a lot of bait around?
What was really upsetting is, right now, I was starting to see some bait on the flats. Excuse me. And now with the next 2 days, actually we got 3 days of cold mornings in a row going to happen. So that might push that bait. It probably will push that bait that was showing up on the flats back to the deep water.
Back to the deep water.
He said, go Green Bay.
All right. Yeah, it all depends how many days of cold weather we get. But the trouble is you're looking at 41 degrees for a couple of nights. If it was 50,
60,
60, but 41 degrees 2 nights in a row. Yeah. And it was overcast all day today. So that sun didn't have a chance to heat that water up. I mean, at least around my house, it drizzled a little bit and it was overcast all day long.
Yeah, if you're gonna go try to catch your own bait, you're gonna have to look deep, without a doubt. You're gonna need to be at least, I would probably say 8 to 10 feet deep of water, and that'll probably be your best bet.
Like I said, these guys that are experts at it that sell the bait, I mean, they have no reason to lie. They were sometimes they were doing pretty good in some of these range markers, but they said now it's gone.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been having to, luckily I've been having later pickups because the tides have been later in the day. So I've been having later pickups, and that gives me time to go find them basically.
And
But
that's
I've
all you-
been, yeah, I've been able to find them up in the bay, but it's been work.
yeah. So I find them every time I go out.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I know exactly where they're at.
Yeah, but not on Mondays.
Not on Mondays. Not on Mondays, and not on Tuesdays this week. And I don't
Yeah.
think there's going to be any this week.
Actually, I talked to Dustin. He's Blacked Out Baits is the name of his company. Is over there by Whedon. I talked to him.
It's not going to be
And
there tomorrow.
He said with the way the winds are going to be, he don't know that this weekend he might not be out there this weekend.
No, because I mean,
You can't run to the Skyway in that kind of.
yeah, you got to run all the way out there and come back. And I mean, that boat's you got a lot of water in it to keep all that.
It's a
bait
lot of
alive.
weight. Yep.
It's a lot of weight, and it
He's
can
got-
get dangerous. The gunnel can get
Oh, yeah.
pretty low.
Oh yeah, he's got 200 gallons of water going on with that.
Yeah, so I
Set
mean,
up,
that's
know.
1,400 pounds.
Oh yeah, and then put
Almost.
the weight of the bait in there on top of it.
That's right. So no, you got to
Yep.
be careful.
Bucky just tuned in. How you doing, Bucky?
Hey, he woke up. He was sleeping
Uh-huh.
in late.
I hope your shoulder's doing better, bud.
Yeah, Bucky. Are you fishing at all? Are you
Yeah,
fishing
yeah,
at
he
all?
did. He
You
did.
did? You went out a little bit.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then I've been seeing a little bit of packs of trout in about 7 feet of water it was, and that's always good to see because they got wiped out for a while there. You couldn't find a trout for a long time.
I mean, this year we've done pretty good with trout. And
Yeah.
actually, in about 4 or 5 feet of water, I ran over last week quite a few pretty big trout.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see them just take off out of the grass when you were coming by. So at least it looks like we're getting some bigger trout in there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's why, watch the way you handle them and let them go. We let them breathe some more.
yeah. And if you can use a D hooker, that's even better.
Don't
So you
even
don't touch
them
them.
if you don't have to.
Bucky says he can throw the net now. I'm good to go. Good for you, man. Just in time. Just in time. And Yep.
Just in time so there's no bait.
that's funny. I don't know how some of the bridges are doing up in the bay right now. For a while there, they were getting some bait off the bridges, but I don't know right now.
They were catching some last week around Gandy, but I saw some guys sitting around for almost an hour throwing the net.
Yeah, see,
And then I saw one of those boats go up and buy bait. So
Yeah.
it tells me that, hey, he didn't get enough bait.
yeah. See, I'm not doing that. I'm looking with my finder for a good size school of bait, and then once I find it, I'll spot lock. If the current's not ripping, I'll throw a bunch of chum in the water. 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I'm getting 1 or 2 throws, and it's done. He says it's there.
It's there.
Not a lot of trout up north. Yeah, it's a shame because really up your way, especially a little further north than the Courtney Campbell, there was really some really good areas that were like trout magnets up there.
Well, I tell you, when I was growing up, Big Island, right off of 4th Street, where Howard
Right.
Franklin comes, there used to be actually a little crab shack there on the point. When you start making the turn,
Right.
there's a canal that goes that, and then it turns right, or you go straight, and Big Island's there. And I remember the first 3 or 4 days of real cold weather, usually December. You could go in there on the weekends, and it was nothing to get 40, 50 big trout.
Right.
But then you could tell when the netters would move in. That's when you could net.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
you go there on a Saturday and a Sunday, and I mean, you could get 30, 40, I mean, big trout. Then you went the next weekend all pumped up because the weather's great. And all the trout that you caught were little trout. And a lot of them, you could see the scars around their head where they went through the net.
Right.
What happens, the netters would go in there, and that was like a canal, and they could circle that canal. And I bet you they could pull out 2,000 or 3,000 trout in one night. And that was
Sure.
killing them.
Well, and a lot of areas that's what these commercial guys were doing. They were watching during the day to see who was hooking trout during the day. They would sit back and just drive around all day. Then when everybody left for the night,
They come
they
in.
would go out and they would hammer them, And unfortunately, it's terrible.
So good thing that we stopped the net.
Yeah, without a doubt. Bucky says Big Island to Couch Patch was a trout haven.
Oh yeah, I know that. I mean, that little canal, even just 5, 6 years ago, you can go in that little canal in there when it got really cold, and
Yeah,
there's
wintertime.
always trout in there.
Yeah.
Nice trout.
Well, and the thing is, that's what like most of the captains, that was our fallback fish. If the redfish, the snook, or whatever didn't want to bite, we always had trout to fall back on. I mean, that was
Mountain jacks.
yeah, that was something that you could like go to any good grass flat and catch 20 or 30 trout without even trying. And now, for a while there, it's finally gotten a little better now with the trout. But for a while there, it was almost hard to get a trout last year.
I think maybe part of it could have been, I think that red tide put a hurt on us.
Well, it did. I mean, we had
Even if it didn't kill a bunch of fish, sometimes you drive them out of an area
yeah,
because
but-
they know that something's wrong, and then sometimes it might take them years for them to come back into the area.
right. But unfortunately, back because of that Piney Point dump, it fueled that red tide. And then the worst thing was we had a storm that did 60-mile-an-hour winds, so it pushed it from Piney Point across the whole bay. And then because it was relentless with the wind, it pushed it all into the backwaters of St. Pete. So it went across the whole bay. So it contaminated so much water. We had 3 huge dumpsters at Demon's Landing that they were just loading boats up with fish, bringing it in there and dumping it in the dumpsters. I'm talking like the huge ones you see for construction.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And we had floating islands back then. And see, like right now, the main thing I'm saying is our fishery is starting to come back now. We're seeing trout. We're getting redfish again. Like I'm pretty much consistently catching redfish now. And we didn't have that. You remember like 2 years ago, you couldn't buy a redfish.
No.
And now we're consistently getting them. So it's like good to see. And it's like, can we please now not do anything else to the bay? And the worst thing too was when that big, whatever it was, like 2.5, 3 years ago, when that big Piney Point thing happened, St. Pete tried to take advantage of it. They actually, because we're having all the storms with all the rain, they actually released 5,000 gallons of water themselves, figuring, well, the bay's messed up already. They'll never detect it. Okay, so they let loose 5,000 gallons.
Taking advantage. And the other thing is, I just wonder, now that the power plants aren't putting as much warm water as they used to in the winter, you think that's going to have a long-term effect? I mean, you think about it. Hot water coming out, of course, the manatees would come in, but the trout would like it. The snook liked it.
Well, it can definitely affect it. I mean, but even still, if it stays a little bit warmer, I think it'll still attract them no matter what. But you've seen it where it gets super hot in there, like way too hot. So I'm wondering if this will help our bay possibly not grow the algae as much, lacking that extra hot water.
Well, maybe.
So it might benefit us.
We might find out this summer.
Yeah, because you got it, in St. Pete, you got over at Apollo Beach is saying the same thing, that they're not as hot as they used to be. So it could be a good thing.
Because they're saying that's one of the problems that they're concerned about with the manatees, that the water is not going to be like it was, and the manatees are going to suffer. So, I mean,
I don't know. It's hard to say, but animals, fish, everything are very adaptable to what happens to them. So I think they'll be all right.
Let's hope so. And another thing that came up too is, it's not just when you have that warm water, you have the manatees. That brought the cobia with the manatees.
Right.
And what was it last week when I was talking to Rick Laus? He was saying that he could see the big difference, especially at Apollo Beach, because he used to fish that a lot.
Right.
Because Sergio, in the winter, if things got slow, you could go in there and there'd be 200 black tip sharks that you could take people in there and 10, 15 sharks and they all have it. He said, it isn't happening. It didn't happen this year.
A lot of the captains were doing that because it was a guaranteed thing. I'm going to make a comment on 2 things here. Jessica is saying James is doing the $10,000 one lure for the boat tournament in Apollo Beach. Well, we wish him luck. Hopefully he'll get it. And then Brian said St. Pete has dumped a lot more sewage water than 5,000 gallons. Yeah, that's true, Brian. I'm saying when that happened, they dump 5,000 gallons right then and there just to kind of sneak it out there without being detected. Oh no, they've had 10,000 gallon spills. It's over the years. There's been quite a few.
Hey,
And then,
guys, let me tell you, back in the 80s and 70s, there's still the pipe that's used to come out about 200 feet in front of the pier. And when the sewage problem, when they couldn't handle all the raw sewage, the city of St. Pete was dumping sometimes 200,000 gallons of raw
yeah,
sewage into the bay. And you could see it bubble up from this pipe that was underground.
yeah.
It was going out to the bay.
Well, then when they did it, maybe about 5 to 7 years ago, somewhere around there, they dumped like 10,000, and they said it was treated.
Yeah. Huh?
It when
Yeah,
you
it was
went
treated
down,
with poop.
yeah, and when you went down like around Pinellas Point, it actually smelled like waste. You could smell it. It was bad. And the worst part is, and it's a mistake. See, St. Pete shut down one of their treatment plants, so that put the burden. Instead of having, let's say, 4 treatment plants or however many they had, then they only had 3, and they had to deal with all the rainwater. So they kind of messed up, and they need to fix it instead of keep waiting until there's a problem. I'll tell you, the ladyfish right now, I'm not seeing as many ladyfish as normal, but some of the canals definitely have it. And then like 4 weeks ago, you couldn't get away from the ladyfish. But the only thing good about them is if you're in them, keep 1 or 2. That is some good cut bait, super cut bait for snook and redfish. That works really good.
Now, the other thing is, I remember, was it you with me? I was talking to somebody, some guy, some captain that on his days off, they were catching ladyfish. And you know what they're getting paid a pound? I forgot
I
what.
think it's $1.25, I think.
Yeah, a pound
Yeah.
for ladyfish.
Oh, yeah. I helped years ago when I was young, like 20. I helped one of my friends. He was a commercial mullet fisherman. And when they weren't running, that's what they would do. They would go out and just catch ladyfish and fill up, 120, 150 quart coolers and bring them to the different fish houses. And then I heard different rumors, like from Doug Hemmer years ago. He said some of them used to go to overseas to like McDonald's to make their square fish sandwich and
I
stuff.
don't know about
I
that.
don't know that I believe that, but I could see it for fertilizer. I could see it for stuff of that nature.
Hey, the crabbers, to stick it in the crab traps.
Yep.
And
But
that
yeah,
kind of
no,
stuff.
we used to do it back then. I helped my friends out doing that a little bit, not much, just to mess around.
I mean, I remember, years ago, you could catch drum, and my uncle back in the 50s used to catch all these drums and sell them to a seafood place, and they would fillet them, and they'd mix them in with grouper fillets and let them sit in the ice tank there for about 3 days. And when
Yeah.
they put it on the shelf and you bought a pound of grouper, of course, grouper was cheap in those days. I mean, about half of the pound wasn't grouper.
That's funny.
It was black drum.
Well, about 4 years ago, I think it was, some restaurants got investigated because they were serving grouper, and some people were like, "This isn't grouper. This isn't grouper." So they went to these different restaurants, and it wasn't grouper. It was actually catfish fillets.
Wow.
And then they investigated deeper because the restaurants were saying no, and they were showing on the box. It was the fish market selling to the restaurant had the boxes marked grouper, and it was catfish fillets.
Wow.
To make more money off the restaurant. So it wasn't the restaurant. It was
Well,
actually
and a lot of this grouper that comes in from South America, it's this big grouper, it's like a Goliath grouper, and you can tell because the meat is grainy.
yeah,
But now,
yeah.
your good restaurants, your upper class, your good restaurants, most of them, they're really true to fact. But
Oh yeah.
once in a while, you got that one that wants to make a few extra bucks,
Yep.
and hey, that happens
But-
in any kind of
Oh
job
yeah.
you have.
Oh yeah.
We know that. We're not accusing the restaurants. What we're saying is, everywhere you go, there's always one bad apple that wants to
Oh
do
yeah.
something a little
Oh
different.
yeah. Yeah. One of the waitresses, I won't name the restaurant, but they had redfish on the menu. And you can have redfish on the menu if it's imported redfish, or whatever. And she said, "Oh no. The owner and a couple of the guys go out in the bay and they catch them." I'm like, just to
No.
let you know, that's illegal.
There's fish in Spanish that have the same name as redfish, and it's not a redfish.
Right, right.
But you got to understand, it's a play on words.
Oh yeah.
Translated from Spanish to English is redfish. So what
Right.
they do, they use that translation,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it's
No,
legal because
it's
it is.
not.
In
Yeah.
Spanish, it's called like a cubina, but
Right.
it's not a real redfish.
Right.
It's a Spanish species.
Oh yeah. Oh no, this girl was saying that the owner and a couple of waiters would go out and catch them in the bay and bring them in, and they'd flay them up. And I was like, yeah, well, that's not legal. And needless to say, they're closed now.
Yeah, well, Now let's see. We've got. We better get. Let's get Michael Haynes' fishing report in.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
Yep, we're having. There we
go. Oh, lost him.
no.
Hey guys, Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida. I want to talk a little bit about the waxing tides, something we've had this week and still experiencing today here on Monday. When the moon gets waxing, the tides tend to be very lackadaisical at best. They may come up half tide and then drop out a few inches and then start coming back in. And when that happens, the fish are a little less active. They don't really move around a lot. It's the best way to describe it. The water isn't rushing in, not bringing in a whole lot of bait. So these fish tend to just kind of get a little more lethargic. Even in the warmer waters that we're having now, I think the water temperature out there this week was 75 almost to 78. One spot I found was 80 degrees. So already early in the season, we've got some really warm water. Hopefully some of this rain is coming through will cool it off just a little bit. But these tides, they just kind of don't do a whole lot. So when the tides aren't doing a whole lot, the fish aren't doing a whole lot. So they're going to be kind of hanging around the same places that they do hang, but maybe venturing out. If you got a strong tide coming in, the fish will tend to come around to the end of the points where the tide is a little slack. Well, when you have all slack tide all day, these fish will venture out a little bit. So just kind of look at it as where the strong tides are coming, they're going to be hanging on the backside of the points. If the lower tides are coming, they're going to be coming back around that point, and they're going to be going along those edges, the seawalls, mangroves, oyster beds. They're going to be venturing out just a little bit because they're going to have to find the fish or find the bait. It's not coming to them through the tides, so they're going to venture just a little bit. So they'll still be around the same areas you caught them a few days before, but they're just going to be kind of cruising. They're just going to be slowly moving around, not doing a whole lot. So you have to present the bait out there and probably wait a little bit longer, be a little more patient, because we did definitely notice that this week. Some of the stronger tides, fish were exactly where they're supposed to be. Present a bait to them and they're slamming it. Yesterday was especially the time where they had to present a bait and it just had to sit there. And usually about 10 minutes on a spot is what I'll wait for a redfish or snook to hit. But yesterday we were kind of waiting 20, almost 30 minutes before we get a bite. And we were moving around quite often. We sat at a place maybe 20, 30 minutes and then moved. Sat at another place 20, 30 minutes. If we caught a fish, we may sit there another 20, 30 minutes. But we finally found a whole bunch of fish sitting on the backside as the tide kind of slowly turned around. Found them on the backside of a mangrove and just kind of sat there, and about 4 or 5 fish hit us. And that was the most action we hit in one spot. Most of the time it was kind of moving around here and there. But when the tides were really, really rushing, we found a bunch of fish behind the mangroves, around behind the points where you've got a little slack tide from where the tide's coming in. And that seemed to be the key, the pattern this week. And it was really, really good. But this week, tides are looking a little bit better, a little more rain. So definitely get out there. Water temperatures are warming up. Inshore bite is really, really good. They're catching a lot of snook out there, so the snook are very active. Redfish are very active still. Flats, still finding the trout. Offshore, haven't really been too much offshore this week, so mainly been inshore. But I know the spoil banks and all that for our local guys are still kicking it off. Trout, I tend to find them in the higher tides, out on the flats, in between the mangroves. So just hit the mangrove edges and just float in or float out, depending on the wind and tide, and just throwing some jigs and miradines. It's really been doing good. Paddle tails also throwing a lot of throwing paddle tails, a lot of casts, a lot of casts. You'll find some more redfish and stuff like that active as well. But if you can, plan your trip, with a little better tides. Those waxing tides where it's not doing a whole lot, it's just a slow day, but it still can be very productive. Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters, Crystal River, Florida. Y'all have a good week.
And thank you very much, Mike
All right.
Haynes.
Nice report.
Yeah, he's always really good. He's kind of like, and he's good at what he does up there in Crystal River. He knows the area, man. I tell you,
Yeah,
I highly
you have to.
recommend him. If you go into Crystal River, he's one of the top guides up there. He's very low key, but he'll take you and put you on the fish. It's
Right,
worthwhile
right.
making a call to him, You see, if you got, Brian Charles, he was telling you about Covina.
Yeah.
It's part of the drum family. It's a trout,
Right.
but a lot of people call Covina. They also call them redfish.
Yeah. Silas.
Yeah.
That's another name.
Yeah. So,
And it depends on, it's kind of funny, Brian, too, because it's like, it depends on who you talk to. One person will say it's a white sea bass. Another person will tell you that it's related to the weak fish. Another person will say it's related to the spotted sea trout. So it depends on who you talk to. But it's in that family, yes.
But hey, the other thing, Georgia and Tampa Bay, the grass seems to be coming back pretty good. I don't know if you noticed that a lot of the areas last couple of years, to me, it looks like, because the water's been really clean, areas that weren't as much grass, I think this real clean water and maybe whatever's happening is give it a chance, like putting fertilizer on it. It's been growing pretty good. I don't know. That's what it seems like to me.
I see some areas that are still pretty sandy, but I do see some new live grass happening. So let's hope it keeps spreading, because that's what it takes. You need good grass.
And like I said, that one spot that you and I, we found, man, that grass has grown a couple of foot in the last year or so.
Oh no, it's
at least 2 feet. It looks like to me.
Yeah, and the thickness of it. It used to be very sparse. Like you wouldn't see that much of it, and
it was down there. Now it's
it's
7 feet. It was laying on the
7 feet.
surface.
Yeah, it's 7 feet tall now.
Yeah. So this is good, because that's trout weeds, I call it.
Yeah. I tell you, I had a problem with it earlier in the year. It was in a mangrove snapper spot, and the mangrove snapper were actually dehooking themselves, using it like a dehooker. They were actually like rubbing their face or going through there.
Wrap around it.
And we were coming up, with a hook with a bunch of grass on it. And I was like, that area is
smart, man.
Yeah, it's not as tall anymore there, so it's kind of mellowed out a little bit, but that other spot we're talking about, it's still pretty thick up there.
All right, well, let's get Tony Franklin. So we don't get too back.
Yeah, we don't want to get late.
All right, Captain Tony Franklin back with this week's fishing report once again. Snook bites picked up a little bit. The water temperatures have warmed. Having a pretty decent snook bite around the moving tide. Incoming has worked the best this week. As we've got later in the week, we've had a slower tide, but what we've done is move back to start time a little bit if we can, and we have on several occasions this week to get that tide to start flowing in and getting a little higher. Been redfish around some of the mangrove areas, depending on the type of tide. On the higher tide, they're up against the mangroves. We're fishing the points of islands where there's a little deeper cut, and they're in those areas. Although they're not large schools, we are catching some nice redfish. Single fish basically for the most part. On the grass flats, the trout bite has really started to heat up. 5-6 feet of water. Look for your darker grass area. There's been spotted sea trout, sand trout, mackerel have started to come in. They're on the deeper grass flats and some of the deeper cuts, shoal areas around the range markers. They're not as thick as they will be in the summertime as we get more toward the summer pattern, but they have started to show. Bonnethead sharks once again on the deeper grass flats. Also some blacktip sharks are mixed in. We've had good action this week with some large jack crevalles, which has really helped the action. Of course, the ladyfish bite has been in there too. So there's been a lot of action fish, jacks, ladyfish, trout. So all in all, it's been really good. Later in the week, this week we had a slower incoming tide that slowed things down a little bit. So made a little bit adjustments with that tide started a little bit later. So that helped a little bit because the tide was already a little bit higher. So that worked. So get out on the water, using live scaled sardines, also using some shrimp. The sheephead bite has slowed down, so switching over to sardines right now. So get out there, get you some bait, get on the water, catch you some fish, tight lines. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Frank.
Good report. Good report.
You know, George, something he said I want to touch on too is you still want to take some shrimp with you. It's time to slowly start switching over to white bait eventually, but it never hurts to have a little bit of shrimp.
No. I always have a bag of frozen shrimp with me just in case, but I have seen it a major switch this week. The white bait definitely kicked in, but you're going to get 2 to 3 mornings of 49 to 55 degrees.
It goes deep,
and it might
back to something else.
It might turn them back onto that. But this week we caught most of our redfish on white bait this week. We did catch still some on the shrimp, but most of them were on white bait. So they're definitely making the switch. You can see the transition happening without a doubt. Where
don't leave home without a bag.
Yeah. Oh no, you want to have some. I always have some. And where like 3 weeks ago, it was at least the areas I was fishing.
It was white bait.
Shrimp was the ticket.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting every redfish on shrimp.
I mean, I was going out and I had some white bait and shrimp, and they wouldn't touch the white bait. But it's like everything. We're going into the transition, but now I think the transition is going to stop for about a week maybe until we get back to some warmer water. Because actually, Tampa Bay was 74 to 77 last week. It was 78.
Yeah, I even 2 weeks ago when we had those 2 or 3 days in a row that were real hot, on the flat I was on, it actually went up to 78 on the flat, and we had 74 at the boat ramp. So it's been pretty good. And that week we caught a lot of snook on the white bait, you know, and that's all it takes. Just got to get that water just a little bit warmed up. What I'm worried about is seeing how it went from so cold to I had 78-degree water that one day. I was thinking, wow, we're going to just pass everything up and go right from 0 to 60 and have hot water real quick.
Yeah. Not quite. Now, look, Joe said he's catching sky. I've heard that there's mackerel.
Yeah, there's mackerel. Yeah, there's mackerel down there. There's a bunch of mackerel. I've heard little dribbles about some kingfish. You know, I think everybody's being tight-lipped about it, but I have heard a little bit about kingfish.
Because, you know, if the word gets out that there might be some kingfish out there, you'll have the whole armada. You get up one morning and there are 50 boats in one area.
Yeah, but I love when that happens because then inshore thins out.
That's right. Hey, everybody go king fishing. There's tons of them out there.
Oh, yeah.
But George, let's get your fishing report in.
Did we have anybody else? Or?
Yeah, we still got I got some pictures. We got Bucky. You want to put Bucky on?
Yeah, put Bucky's on there.
Okay.
Good afternoon. It is Saturday evening. I just got done running 2 trips. I ran one Thursday and then one today. Fishing was pretty good. Bait was much easier on Thursday. Today the current was really ripping and it made it pretty tough to get it underneath the bridges. But I changed spots and ended up, I could see it in the shadow line. So I started just throwing and started getting it, you know, 30, 40 pieces, 60, 70. So got enough bait to get my trip done. Thursday was a pretty good trip. I found a bunch of redfish and went there first thing and they were gone. That's the name of the game sometimes. You find these fish and you hope they're going to stay still and you bank on going somewhere and they're gone. Then we just run around grinding. We got countless ladyfish, big ladyfish, which are a lot of fun, especially for the kids. Got some real nice reds, a trout, some snook. Today was a little different. I went and tried to some other spots, just going out of the blind. The wind was setting up perfect to go fish some areas. So I said, hey, let's give it a shot. The water was looking real clear. I mean, the water flowing underneath the bridge, Howard Franklin and Causeway and Gandy, it was pretty nasty this morning. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be all turned up like that, but I guess that current was just stirring everything up. But started getting some snook, got some nice reds. One of the kids hooked a really big snook, and it took him on a real long run, and he just didn't have that rod high enough, and it must have got snagged on a rock and broke the line. So he was pretty upset about that. He just got done crying too because he smashed his shins on one of my rod holders on the gun underneath the gun holes. So that was pretty entertaining. But I do that all the time. But then we ended up getting some real nice redfish and got some nice snook, so a few more redfish and some other spots. There was a lot of people out there, and I didn't end up going to some of the spots I wanted to go just because there were some people nearby. And honestly, people got to learn on their own. And if they see you fishing these spots, you just show them where to go. So I just kind of avoided some areas and went to some more popular areas that were already kind of congested, and kept some of my can't say they're secret spots, but some other spots, kept them to myself. But I got to get out there. I'm looking forward to having some higher water. It gets kind of tough when you get these low tides in the morning. The tides were great this morning because it was like a slow incoming, and it was like a fast incoming early in the morning. By the time you pick up for your charter, it was pretty much slack the rest of the day. But we made the best of it. I'm looking to get back out there. My shoulder's getting better. I've been throwing the net a little bit. I had to throw it more than I really want to, so my shoulder's a little irritated. And hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll be, won't be pain free and stuff. But you know what? I'll work and I'll grind, and I'll sacrifice a little comfort for the benefit of a good trip. So if you want to go fishing, give me a call. Captain Bucky Goldman, Bag 'em Fishing Charters, TampaFloridaFishingGuide.com. And look forward to taking you out, seeing you on the water. And good job, everybody else. You guys have been catching a lot of really good fish while I've been sitting at home doing rehab. So I'm just glad to be out on the water again. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Bucky.
All right, Bucky, we're glad that you're out in the water again.
That's the big thing. He's back on his feet, ready to go.
Yep.
And, well, we got Holta put the couple of pictures of my client that from the other day. Yeah, that was one of my good clients. He got a really nice snook, and Pam made a comment. Oh, you shouldn't. You picked him up with the thing. Well, I did that because I wanted to see how much it weighed. I was using the Eagle digital scaler. The digital the scale. Yeah, and I want to see how much it weighed, and that sucker was fat. That was a big jack. I mean, that one weighed 14 pounds. I mean, he was heavy. He was just real fat.
Right.
And he gave him a heck of a fight. I mean, it was a really nice jack. He had a great time, You
just got to be careful with the snook because of that jaw muscle, But, yeah, what did the snook weigh, do you know?
It was, I don't remember. I held it up.
Yeah.
You want to hold it up but the jack I remember because I got really close.
That's a big jack.
Yeah, that was 14. I said, I can't believe it.
Yeah, that was a big jack. Now it's weird how we caught one jack, one single, like probably about a 10-pound jack, and just one by itself. And I was amazed at that because normally, once those jacks move in, it's one after another usually.
It's funny. This big school came up to the boat. We saw it coming.
Right.
He cast it. I went to throw an artificial, and as soon as he hooked that jack, it looked like the rest of them just took off, and we never saw him come back up.
Huh.
So it was funny, but we saw him in the distance, and what it was, they were feeding on a school of mullet. Can you believe that? That must have been a lot of fingerling mullet. But it was a school of mullet.
And that's funny you should say that, because where we caught that bigger jack, there was some blowups on the mullet. Maybe that's a new thing for them. I don't know.
Maybe, I mean, these jacks were pretty big, so
Yeah.
I'm sure they could eat a 10-inch mullet, but I bet you
Right.
a
They'll
little
try.
4 or 5-inch mullet, those
Oh, yeah.
suckers who got it.
The
Or they were
the-
trying to buy them.
Oh yeah, and you've seen this before, and not too long ago, last year in wintertime, there was a school of jacks that pinned a bunch of thread fins or bait against the seawall, and you know how it just explodes against the seawall, and you see all the splashing going on. When we were pulling in, the client says, "It looks like there's a waterfall over there." He thought there was a waterfall coming off the seawall. I said, "No," I said, "that's a bunch of jacks feeding," and we caught 3 jacks. And that was just the coolest way to end the trip, because they were big.
Well, I mean, this one here, he made a big run, picked up the power poles, and we chased him down because, I mean, this guy was already about a football field away. I mean, he was
Right.
big,
Right
we weren't expecting that.
now, are you seeing Kevin Overstreet making a
No,
comment?
no, I don't see him. Do you?
I don't see it, but Bucky says, "What's up, Overstreet?" So I don't know if Bucky's seeing it. See, it's weird
don't see
tonight.
him.
We're not seeing, guys. If we're not commenting on your stuff, it's because we're not seeing it.
For some
we're
reason, yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely not
I
being
don't see it.
rude by any means.
All right, George, let's get yours in now.
Okay. Hey guys, Captain George Hastic coming to you from downtown St. Petersburg. Well, the bite's been really good this week. There's some slow points, and it really depends on what you're fishing for. On the lower tides, I'm fishing deeper water, rock piles and docks, stuff like that. Getting mangrove snapper and grouper, a few snook here and there on that type of structure. I'm using live scaled sardines and thread fins. Both are working really well. I'm running 25-pound test fluorocarbon leader with a 1/0 to 2/0 circle hook by owner. It just depends on what size the baits are, and just adjust your hook accordingly. The main line, I'm running like 10 to 15 pound. One setup we were using today was actually 25-pound braid, but for the most part, I'm running 10 to 15 pound braid fins in the wind tamer. The grouper bite's been really good, and don't forget it's catch and release right now. But you were catching a lot of juveniles, but on the light tackle, we're running 8 to 17 pound rods right now, and that light tackle, 3,000 to 4,000 reels. It's just fun, clients are really loving it. And then we're catching the mangrove snapper in between the grouper, so they're getting to take something home to eat also at the same time. The flats right now, if you can catch the outgoing tide first thing, you could probably get on some snook pretty easily if you got white bait. The incoming tide this week, late afternoon, the redfish have been moving in. There's still redfish at the docks, but what switch I'm starting to see now is they're really switching over to the white bait. I was catching way more reds on shrimp, even up to last week. Last week it was 50-50. This week it's more like 75-25, where they're eating the white bait over the shrimp now. So I think pretty soon they're going to be just on the white bait, thread fins. Cut bait is coming up after that, once it starts really getting warm. But look for your areas that have good mangroves. If you can combine that with maybe some oyster mounds, stuff of that nature, the redfish really do like that type of thing. Snook, basically it's under the mangroves, and a lot of areas where you have like cuts through the mangroves where the water can flow in and out. You get an outgoing tide, especially coming through that mangrove tree line where it's dumping out, it's pulling all the bait out of that area, and those snook will line up for that. I'm still throwing the little P&V. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards the opening night with the lime truce tail, and still the brown glass minnow. I still like that one. I'm throwing that on a 1/4 ounce jig head, and we're getting the trout in about 5-6 feet of water. I have gotten some trout this week on the white bait, so that white bait is starting to trickle onto the flats a little bit. I don't know if it's worth chumming to try and catch it on the flats yet. I haven't done that, but I have been looking, and I'm starting to see some showing up on the flats. I'm still catching mine in like 12 to 14 feet of water, but we did start catching some of the trout on the white bait pretty good recently. So everything I think is getting ready to switch over to the white bait. All right, this has been Captain George Haslick of Fish Hunter Fishing Charters. Have a good day.
All right.
Hey, I don't know if you've seen the girl with the white hat on. She's just turned 20, and this is the coolest thing. Her mother hired me 13 years ago. They came down here 13 years ago, so it was the mom and her 2 kids. She was 7 years old, and I have a picture of her that I put in Onshore Offshore magazine of her holding a little mangrove snapper at 7 years old. It was the cutest little picture. So here it is, 13 years later. She remembered my name and looked me up and hired me. So now I have a picture of her daughter 13 years later holding a mangrove snapper. So I'm going to put a post up with the 2 pictures like next to each other. And I swear, her face didn't change at all. It just looks like it's on a bigger body.
Hey, that happens. I had some guys I remember. I had one guy that was a dentist that I started taking his 2 kids when they were real young.
Right.
And I mean, I took them out for like 10 years. They were like 5, 7. And then finally they got to the point where they were so on the weekends into soccer and everything else that
Oh,
they
yeah.
couldn't come in.
Yeah.
I must have taken them out for about 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
And you could see the pictures over the years, how they kept getting bigger,
Oh, yeah.
and bigger and bigger. And I
It-
kept getting older and older and older.
It is neat. I mean, like I have a client that when his son was 5 years old, he called me and said, "Hey, can you take out a 5-year-old?" And I said, well, it depends. He goes, "Well, he's really athletic." And he goes, "I know every father says that about their," he goes, "but this kid is really athletic." I said, "Sure." I said, "Why not? Bring him along. Let's see what happens." This kid at 5 years old, it was a real windy day out, and I had my chum bat laying on top of the live well. He was fishing, not facing it. The wind gusted. It blew the chum bat off of the live well. And this kid, out of the corner of his eye, seen it, backhand reached like this and caught it.
Wow.
Okay. I was like, wow. I was like, that's really good. I taught him how to cast. It literally took him 10 minutes, and he was casting 30-foot shots with no problem. And we caught so many slams that day that hooked that dad. It was April Fool's Day that I took him out. And then every April Fool's for a lot of years, he was hiring me. And now they still go out with me, and it's 18 years later.
Wow.
And now I've got pictures, like you're saying, of here he was at 5, and then now he's in college. Yeah, now he's in college.
And that's great to see that, and you know that you did your job when they come back and
Yeah.
and they get back and
Yeah.
and by the way, just you can mark your notes that June 21 is going to be the kids fishing clinic out of Picnic Island. The Mayor Jane Castor is helping us this year
Okay.
again. So I'm putting everything together once I hear some final things from her.
Right.
But anybody that wants to get involved to help us, it'll be June 21st.
Okay.
Anybody out there that wants to be a sponsor and help put some money towards to help the kids get their rods and reels and their little tackle boxes, every penny works, and any donations work, any stuff that you might want to give away for like a first, second, or third place. But again, it's all going to be from kids all the way up to 14 years old.
Yep.
Out of Picnic Island is going to be June 21.
Yep. So we have that date locked in.
That's locked in.
Okay.
Yeah, the mayor's going to be there. That's the day she's committed to being there.
Now I gotta ask people, please. It's a really good thing that's going on here for the kids, but if you reserve a spot and you can't make it, please contact us, Sergio, somebody, and let us know, because there's other people that want to attend that missed out last year. Because how many people didn't show up last year, Sergio?
We had about 20 something.
Right, we had enough food there for that many people. So you have a lot of food that we didn't let it go to waste, that we sent it home with people. But it's just the point of there was 20 something people that wanted to attend that didn't, because we shut it down.
So, I mean, I had a couple that were very nice. They told us that, hey, I can't make it. I'm sorry. We have this problem. And as soon as they found out, they told me. But then we had a lot of people that just
Didn't show up.
didn't show up. And, we try to keep it in order to make it more manageable and do a better job this year. We're going to keep it to just 100 kids.
Because last year it was what, 150?
157, I think. That, and it just becomes too much. I think 100 kids, we can put 10 kids to a group, have all these different stations and really teach the kids and get them fishing, and
And-
hopefully we can do the right job for them.
Oh yeah, and all the captains were great last
Oh,
year. I mean, everybody was helping out, and the kids liked it. The parents were making a lot of comments. When the thing was over, it wasn't over. You know, when the whole picnic thing was done and everybody went home, there was parents that stayed fishing
With the
at-
kids.
with the kids. And I actually brought my fishing pole, so I grabbed my tackle and my fishing pole, and I started fishing. And then I had a bunch of people come up and start asking me questions, and I didn't mind, you know. And I helped a bunch of the kids after the picnic just to, you know, keep them going. I think the hardest part was we had too much seaweed that year. A little bit was making it difficult for them to fish.
So
But-
let's hope everything works out, and we're out of time, everybody. But
Oh.
remember, June 21 is the kids' fishing clinic. And remember, Fishing Adventures Florida, we're only about 100 and something short of 15,000 subscribers, guys.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
really
That's
thanks
all.
to everybody passing the word, telling everybody else, and they're all watching the show and they're all subscribing. And, you know, if you think about it, we're going to break 15,000 subscribers. But I know a lot of people that watch the show, but they don't subscribe,
Right.
which is okay. I mean, you don't have to subscribe. But I'm figuring we probably got another 5,000 or 6,000 that'll watch the show. Some people just don't like to subscribe. I can understand that. I watch a lot of shows on YouTube.
Right.
I don't subscribe to, but I like to watch them.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
not a problem. But just watch the show. That helps a lot too.
I got to make a comment here. Well, Joe said, good show. Thank you very much. Scott Paul, who I'm taking out Thursday, said, awesome. You guys can get those kids into fishing and teach them. That's exactly why it's being done.
That's,
We wanna
that's
get 'em-
the only reason we do it.
We want to get them hooked.
That's the future of what we do today. It's
Right.
kids, not
And
us. We're getting older.
And it'll keep the kids away from the bad stuff.
Bad stuff. So
That's it.
amen. Thank you, everybody.
Hey,
God
have a good
bless.
night.
See you next week. Take care.